Officiating is back at the top of the headlines for all the wrong reasons in English football yet again, thanks to David Coote's video where he goes on a rant bashing Jurgen Klopp. And I'm going to tell you, this is not as bad as it's being made out to be, and yet dramatic, massive change still needs to happen, and the two are not necessarily related. Don't worry, I'm going to explain it all next, here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub. Alright, so the David Coote video was bad, no doubt. An official bashing a former coach and suggesting some sort of implicit bias is not a good thing. But let's not act like in this video he admitted to purposely not giving Liverpool calls or actually trying to screw them or anything like that. Unless I'm missing more of the video that I haven't seen, there was none of that. This was just him calling Jurgen Klopp some names, bringing up the fact that he's German is not a good look, obviously, but he didn't come out and say, and because I don't like him, I don't give them calls. He just said the guy's a jerk. It's not the word he used, but we're going to clean it up. And if you think officials don't have personal opinions about these coaches and players that they deal with every week and that verbally berate them for years on end, you're forgetting that referees and officials are human, and that's really what this comes down to. Is we don't want officials to be human, and when they show human sides like this, it is almost never a good look. So obviously this looks bad, but let's not act like he admitted some sort of fraud that changed things. And of course everybody goes back and analyzes every game he officiated against Liverpool and every call he didn't get right or didn't call, and it's just complete and utter nonsense. But it is a problem, and massive, massive change is needed. So we're going to talk about what that is next, but before we do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel. Get in that comment section, let me know what you think. I'd love to get your feedback on this and some ideas I'm going to present. You can also leave some comments on Twitter at PitchsidePub, and check out the website, pitchsidepub.com. So if it's not a big deal, why is massive change needed? Well, because this has been a problem for a long time. And again, I don't, even if he really does hate Jurgen Klopp, I don't believe, even after watching this video, I don't believe that he is purposely trying to hurt Liverpool or hurt Klopp or not give them calls and go, haha, I'll show you because you're a jerk. Or I'm going to, and this is the real problem, this is the common accusation that is levied against officials, which is, well, he grew up a fan of this club and now he's officiating games against their rivals, so of course he's not going to give them the calls, and of course there's going to be a bias there. Now, is there a natural unintended bias by officials when officiating a game? Without a doubt, they are human beings, and that's not unique to European football. That is across the board. As long as we have human beings officiating sports, there will always be biases. There will always be an official who is just getting absolutely railed by a coach. So you know what? Next time there's a close call, maybe it doesn't go his way because he's pissed at that guy. I mean, that kind of stuff is going to happen. Should it happen? No. Should it look and be obvious? No. Is it the job of the official to try and limit that as much as possible? Yes, in fact, it's their job to not do it at all, but we have to know that it happens. It always is going to happen. It's a part of sports. It's a part of human nature. So that's what I think this is more about, but the problem here is not whether or not David Coote messed up some calls against Liverpool because he didn't like Jurgen Klopp. It's all about optics. This whole thing is about optics. Like I said, we don't want to see officials as human beings. So when a video of him being drunk on a couch spouting off against Jurgen Klopp comes out, it shows a human side of him. He doesn't look any different than any fan of any other club who didn't happen to like Liverpool or Jurgen Klopp. But officials aren't supposed to show that side. We're never supposed to see it. They're supposed to be emotionless robots who show up, do the job, and disappear. We never see them again. And of course, that's just not how it works. But the optics are always bad. And anytime there's a bad call, the conspiracy theories come out. And obviously, the Premier League and the officials do not have some massive conspiracy against any particular club, and there's no possible way for all the fans to be right about this because every fan base thinks their club is the one getting screwed, which is, inherently impossible. So, But it's so common and so prevalent that it has become a problem, and is a problem of optics. And there have been, every time there are bad calls, the first thing a fan base does is go and look up what club officials support and where they grew up and who they were a fan of as a kid. And this is really unique to European football. I'm coming at this from an American perspective. We don't hear this. We don't have this problem. The NFL is our biggest sport. There are bad calls all the time because it's a very complicated sport to officiate. There's like 7 officials out there at one time. You've got the head official. Never in 41 years on this planet have I ever heard that official made a bad call because he grew up a fan of this other team. That's not a thing that happens here. It doesn't happen in basketball, doesn't happen in baseball, doesn't happen in American football. It is unique to European football because of the close-knit tribalism that comes with soccer fandom, European football fandom, and this allegiance that it's just so life or death that you support this club. And so we're supposed to believe that all of these officials are just, lower-level, non-league supporters of smaller clubs, and thus they have no affiliation for or against Manchester United, or against Liverpool, or against Arsenal. And of course, that's just not going to be the case. But there is such a simple solution here, because while I hear this more from Premier League fans, and this seems to be a bigger problem in England, I'm sure that it's not. I'm sure that is an informational bias on my part, because I get more information about the Premier League than I do for Serie A or La Liga or the Bundesliga or Ligue 1 or anything else. If you have examples of that, please send them to me. Get in the comments, leave a link or something, because I'd like to see more examples of fans accusing this sort of this tribalism and this favoritism from officials because they were fans of other clubs. But I hear it more in England, but I'm sure it's prevalent everywhere. And there's such a simple solution. Everybody swap officials, right? Everybody swap officials. English officials, go officiate in Germany and in Spain and in France and in Italy, and send some Italian officials to England and some Spanish officials to England and some German officials to England. Swap them all up. We don't have these problems in international football nearly as much. There are still bad calls, obviously. That's always going to be a part of it. But you don't hear the accusations of, well, he grew up he grew up a Germany fan, so he's going to give bad calls to France or something like that. That's not the case. You get a neutral official from Croatia to do an England-France game, right? And so there's no biases in there. That can happen in club football. Why do we have all English officials officiating English games and all Spanish officials officiating Spanish games? Swap them up. And that would require, and the reason this probably doesn't happen is it would require the national officiating and rules organizations, PGMOL, and their equivalent in other countries, to give up some of the power and the decision-making and form some sort of either partnership or umbrella group that incorporates all of their officials in there. But it can be done, and it would solve so much problems. You think PGMOL likes this stuff? You think this is good for them? People are calling for their to be dissolved. And for the whole organization to go away, which is just so utterly extreme. But this is such a simple fix. Take all the officials, get the Portuguese ones in there, and the Dutch ones in there, and it's not just the big 5. Get them all in there, and rotate them around. Rotate them around. And that way, at least when there's a bad call, we can look at it and go, well, you're not unethical, you're not corrupt, you're just incompetent. And man, at least that's something, right? We've still got a lot of work to do on making officials better, but this idea that they are corrupt really hurts the spirit of the game. And like I said, I don't think David Coote purposely went out and goes, I don't like Jurgen Klopp, so I'm going to go out and screw Liverpool over today. That's not what he said in the video. That's just not what happened. Did it happen unintentionally because he doesn't like Jurgen Klopp? Yeah, maybe. Maybe those calls that are a little bit, borderline don't go that way, and it's because Jurgen Klopp yelled at him a whole bunch over the years. He wouldn't be the first official that has happened to, whether on purpose or just unconsciously. He's just the first official who was dumb enough to get drunk and talk about it on a camera phone. So The problem here is optics. It's always optics. And by rotating the officials around from country to country and having to move around, and you'd have less sample size of oh, he's done 27 Liverpool games over the past decade, and now we've got this track record. You'd have less of that. You'd have less biases. I doubt David Coote has a strong bias over, Real Betis versus Las Palmas, right? So send him to Spain to do that game, and we won't have these issues. So it's just such a simple solution that needs to happen, but it's going to require the officiating organizations sort of, putting their tail between their legs and admitting that there's a problem here. And that the problem is not necessarily in the officiating, but in the optics. And that is the part that they always seem to ignore, because the fans go so over the top with it that their arguments are sometimes so ridiculous that you want to dismiss them. But the optics matter. The optics matter whether they are legitimate or not. And it's something that PGMOL and all of the organizations really need to address. I would love to get your thoughts. Get down in that comment section. Let me know what you think. Don't tell me I don't understand the concept of tribalism. Don't tell me I don't understand the loyalties of officials. I do. I just think officials are generally better than that and rise above that as best they possibly can. And I do not believe in the corruption. But get down in that comment section. Let me know your thoughts on rotating officials around and some of these other ideas. You can also leave comments on Twitter at PitchsidePub. While you're at it, hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel and check out the website, pitchsidepub.com. Thanks as always for joining us here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub.